in the longest offseason of my life, it feels like, and I'm not taking any of these moments for granted.
No, it's true. And a week from today, the Titans will be gearing up for their first preseason game out in San Francisco, taking on the 49ers. Joint practices 5 days away. So, again, it's getting closer and closer. We are almost a month away from real football. I guess we're under a month away from college football getting going. Week 1 was a month from yesterday. So it's gonna feel like a long time, but we are getting close. And tonight we get real live football, even though it means nothing. We get real live football back on our televisions.
It means nothing. It probably doesn't. We're not going to get a better idea about who's going to be on the 53 for both teams. It's just a football game. It kicks off the preseason. Week 0 will be here in, I'm not going to quick, but 23 days. So yeah. We're 3 weeks away from football games that actually count. It's incredible.
Right. I mean, it feels like the longest offseason ever. I agree with you, but it's almost over. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We will talk plenty of Titans today, again, live at Titans training camp. We won't be able to give you updates throughout practice today, not open to fans, but we will give you updates as soon as practice ends, whether that's during our show or when Chase and Big Joe come on at noon. Connor Newt will join us coming up in the second hour of the show live here. He'll give us some updates on what Robert Saleh had to say and what he's expecting here from the third day in pads. And coming up next at 9:15, Joey Dwyer is going to join us from Vandy on SI. Vanderbilt opened fall camp yesterday. He was out there for practice. We'll get his thoughts on what he saw and what the Commodores' 2026 season could look like. We'll talk some Titans in a second, but I did want to talk about the Derrick Henry story from yesterday. Did you see this tweet from Kay Adams and her show yesterday, Parker?
Yeah, the part about him wanting to retire as a Raven?
Yes, where they clearly took what he said out of context, and they knew, like, this is, everything's about clicks these days, right? You want to get interaction on your post, and the Up and Adams Twitter account did a great job of it because it got everybody up in arms. I saw a ton of Titans fans just, on the brink of a meltdown because Derrick Henry said, "I want to retire as a Raven." It does not mean exactly what you think it means. He said he does not want to play for any other team before he hangs them up. That was almost his exact quote, was he wants to stay with the Ravens until he hangs them up. That does not mean that he's not going to come back and do his one-day contract with the Titans or whatever it is. Like, I don't – if Derrick Henry wins a Super Bowl this year with the Ravens, then maybe you have a conversation of how is he remembered, Titan versus Raven. But – short of that, he's going to be remembered as a Titan. I know that the NFL, like the Pro Football Hall of Fame, doesn't do it the same way as baseball, where it's like you have to go in with a certain team. You just go in, you get your bus. There's no helmet or anything like that. But barring something unforeseen this year with him rushing for 2,000 yards and the Ravens running to a Super Bowl, like, he's going to be a Titan. And he's going to come back and he's going to retire as a Titan. So that's my take on it, is that I think he is going to be a Titan. He's going to hang up his cleats with the Ravens. It'll be the last team he plays for. But I do think that he is going to end up coming back and being a Titan after, whether it's a one-day contract or coming back and having his number retired at the very end.
Yeah, I saw a couple aggregation accounts yesterday posting about that, and at first it did give me a jump scare, but then I started to think about it. Okay, we all know why Derrick Henry went to Baltimore, a better chance at winning a Super Bowl, and right. it was just time to move on. But if you think about the overall scope, let's not have short-term memory here. If you think about the overall scope of Derrick Henry's career, what he accomplished in Tennessee, how much of his career he spent in Tennessee, what Nashville as a city means to him versus Baltimore, those may be two very special places in Derrick Henry's heart, and that's fine. But it makes the most sense that he would end up finishing his career retiring as a Titan. And I really that post from Kay Adams did not bother me after I started to think about it like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was pure clickbait. They knew what they were doing. They knew that if they put that out there, it was going to be controversial. You'd get Titans fans, you'd get regular NFL fans. Oh no, how could he retire as a Raven when he was a Titan for 8 years and he ran for 2,000 yards and had all that success? It was taken out of context. He clearly meant that he wants to finish his career in Baltimore. That does not mean that he's going to have this big ceremony where he retires as a Raven, is forever commemorated in Baltimore history. He's going to come back and retire as a Titan. And he did, I want to say he clarified this yesterday on Twitter. He took to social media and wanted to make sure that people knew. He said, "I would like to finish my playing career with the Ravens. I never said anything about retiring. I'm enjoying being a Raven. I'll worry about that retirement bleep later." So there you go.
Love it.
Directly from the horse's mouth. So I just wanted to address that. I thought that was funny. It's like I saw so many Titans fans freaking out about that. And I'm like, it was clearly taken out of context. If you watch the clip, you knew what he was trying to get across. And I think you understand why the Up and Adams account put it out there that way, because they wanted to get as much interaction on it as possible. And guess what? Controversy creates clicks. And that's what they wanted to do. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Mike on the text line says, let's assume he wins the Super Bowl with the Ravens, or he accomplishes some of these big milestones with the Ravens. He does no longer play for the Titans. Why would he retire a Titan if he wins the Super Bowl? The Ravens, what gave it to him? And he also said, I quote, "I want to finish my football career in Baltimore." That sounds like retirement also. It's very different to say, I want to finish my playing career with the Ravens, than I want to retire as a Raven, right? Like, you see guys come back and do their one-day contract, and they have a press conference of, I'm retiring and I wanted to do it with this team. Like Brian Arakpo did that with the Titans. I remember specifically because that's a guy who probably had two choices. He could have gone back and gone to the Redskins, or now the Commanders. They were the Redskins back then, or done the Titans, and he chose the Titans. I think if he wins the Super Bowl and he has a huge year this year and like really cements his legacy, then maybe we have this conversation. But I do think that he's going to come back and retire as a Titan. He will be remembered as a Titan. He will go into the Ring of Honor here as a Titan. That's where the bulk of his career and the best of his career will have been. I'm not worried about it. I mean, I understand why, like, on the surface, that looked like it was controversial. But when you watch the clip, you realize that that was not what he was saying. He's not saying, I want to be enshrined as a Raven. He was just saying he doesn't want to play for any other team.
And I'd say for, running backs, the longevity for your average running back is a lot shorter than some of these other positions. But the way that Derrick Henry works out, he's always posting his workout videos. The way that he takes care of his body, it's allowed him to play a lot longer. And also, he really doesn't slow down. Like, he gets better as the season progresses. He's had the fumbling issue the last few years, but at the same time, as the game goes on, as the season goes on, that's when Derrick Henry starts to get better and better and better. That's a tribute to the way he takes care of his body, how he preps, how he works out in the offseason, preparing for an NFL season. I can understand where he's coming from, wanting this to be his last stop and, finish his career as a Raven. But when you're talking about retiring with a team, completely different conversation.
Right. And we'll see. Again, his career's not over. Things can change. But that clip was clearly taken out of context, and it didn't mean that he views himself as a Raven and he wants his legacy to be in Baltimore. Like, let's see what happens the rest of his career and beyond when he retires. I think he comes back and he retires as a Titan. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Parker, you've been out here at practice. You were out here on Tuesday. Pads back on today. We've seen ups and downs for both sides of the football. I'd say the defense has probably been a little more consistent than the offense, but day 3 in pads, what would you be looking for today for the Titans as they gear up for joint practices in their first preseason game next week?
Well, something that I noticed is, Cam Moore did have that deep touchdown pass to Carnell Tate to end the team period, which both sides desperately needed because Carnell Tate, it's not like he struggled dropping the football or anything. He had a couple of targets, but he just wasn't as present as maybe fans were hoping. And also, too, it's credit to the way Alontae Taylor was covering him. He was draped all over receivers really all morning into the early afternoon. I'd like to see Cam Ward handle pressure a little bit better. I don't expect the pressure to go anywhere, or go away, given how bad I feel about this offensive line at this point in time, and given how good I feel about the defensive line rotation, there was a lot of pressure in his face, and it caused him to miss some really easy throws. So that's something that I'd like to see better once they get to the team portion is how does Cam Ward handle that pressure, and can he make the easy throws even if there's a guy in his face?
Yep. And speaking of pressure against Cam Ward, we'll have to see what the Dan Moore injury status is. Again,
That is another thing.
There was no update post practice. I mean, Robert Saleh was just coming off the field. It wouldn't really have made sense if he really knew exactly what was going on. But that will be something to pay attention to today when practice reports come out or when Robert Saleh speaks. 615-737-1025. Lots of Titans talk throughout the show today. Again, if you're tuned in thinking it's a TD Thursday, we had to flip things around with the practice schedule. TD will be in for the full show tomorrow. Titans have their scrimmage at the stadium tomorrow night, so TD will be with us gearing up for that. And of course, the week out in Santa Clara next week. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, Joey Dwyer from Vandy on SI will join us. Vanderbilt opening fall camp yesterday. We'll get his thoughts on what the Commodores could look like in 2026 and much more. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley off and running on this Thursday, live from Titans training camp. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you live at Titans training camp. You're at Vanderbilt Health Football Center. Lots of Titans talk throughout the show today, but we go now to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We are joined by Joey Dwyer from Vandy on SI to talk some Commodores. Joey, thanks for taking some time this morning.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. You also got boots on the ground here. I'm in the deck watching Vanderbilt's practice, so hopefully no loud music pops up halfway through the interview here.
I love it. We've got both practices in town this morning covered between you and me. Joey, you were out at day one yesterday of Vandy Fall Camp. What were kind of your first impressions of what this year's version of the Commodores are going to look like?
Yeah, still a lot in the air. I think the biggest thing is Carkley said they have a deeper team than they've ever had throughout his tenure, and probably easy to see that on the first day if you're watching practice. No injuries, really. They've only got one significant contributor staying off to the side. As you guys know, that's something that really hasn't been the case throughout fall camps for Vanderbilt before. And obviously the quarterback competition, the main storyline as well, Jared Curtis and Blaise Berlowitz going at it. Both of them, I can't tell you what's happening because it's a closed period, but both of them right in front of my face throwing right now. Curtis, I think, on day one was probably a little better than Berlowitz, but Berlowitz, I thought, his stock did go up for me on day one. I think both really talented, and I don't think either are going to be Diego Pavia. I think just seeing the execution of the offense and how it's a little bit less precise than last year would indicate that. But I think they've got high hopes for whatever they have at the quarterback position. But overall, I think the biggest takeaway is just they were healthier on day one, and I think their depth was a lot easier to see than it has been in the past.
You talk about the quarterback competition and maybe the offense being a little less precise. We saw Tim Beck, the way he was able to use his offense with Diego Pavia. Do you think that maybe it has to be a little simplified no matter who's starting at quarterback this year?
Yeah, I almost imagine that. Even Tim Beck said yesterday that in year one with Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt, the offense was almost a little bit simpler than in year two. Pavia grew up a little bit, and I think they had more explosive playmakers that allow them to do some different things offensively. I'm not quite sure that they have that yet right now. I think they're still waiting to see what exactly they have in the receiver room. And like you said, I think they have to simplify it a bit, a first-time starting quarterback. Either way, I've heard some level of skepticism that Curtis is going to, pick up the offense seamlessly. And I think Berlowitz knows the offense, but still I think you're going to have to simplify it for him just because of his lack of game experience and tendency to make poor decisions at times.
Talking to Joey Dwyer of Vandy on SI. Joey, I think it's really interesting to talk about the evolution of the offense. In 24, it was more so similar to your typical triple option, just a little bit more modernized. But in 2025, Diego Pavia's last year, they started to throw the ball a lot more, and Diego Pavia really took the reins and developed as one of the best passers in college football. I know you talked about the offense being simplified if Jared Curtis ends up being named the starter sooner rather than later, but do you still see the offense having those base concepts from the 2025 version of the offense compared to what it was in 2024?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, and I think one that I've been focused on a lot throughout camp. We asked Tim Beck about it yesterday. If you remember, like in 2024, they basically ran an option offense, and they threw the ball a little bit, but it really wasn't a desirable place for a wide receiver to play. You saw that reflected in their recruiting heading into 25. And in 25, I thought they were much more explosive. They pushed the ball down the field a lot more. They were intentional about doing so. So my question to Tim Beck was, what gives? What's going to happen in 2026? And the indication I've gotten is that it's going to be almost a blend of the two. I think they're going to have to control the game, but they seem to think that they have some explosive play potential. I think that's the biggest X factor here. Like, can they be more than just a control the clock type of offense? Because honestly, I don't know that either of their quarterbacks are equipped to not turn it over very often. I think they're going to have to hit explosives, and I think that's one of the biggest storylines this camp is, do they have enough explosive playmakers on the perimeter to run the offense that they want to run? Guys, we'll see about that. Still not quite sure if they have enough guys to get separation there.
So you mentioned how Clark Lee was talking about the depth of this roster, and I tend to agree because I was looking at Vanderbilt's roster about a month ago, and I just going through some of the names. I love the additions that they got in the transfer portal, but looking over at the offensive side of the ball, feel good about the offensive line, even though they returned, one starter. I feel really good about the receiver position, but the running backs, why is Cedric Alexander and MK Young not being talked about as among the best in the SEC? I know the SEC has a lot of good running backs, Kejuan Lacey, Ahmad Hardy, Hollywood Smothers, guys like that. But this duo at Vanderbilt is truly underrated.
The funny thing is that I think Pavia actually hurt them in that way just because he was such a good runner himself. Like in year one, Pavia was the leading rusher on the roster. I think that almost hurt Cedric Alexander. And you look at the counting stats and you don't think that Cedric Alexander took a big leap. And then you look at the yards per carry and you're like, oh my gosh, he was so much better last year than he was in 2024. I think Vanderbilt wanted to get his name out there. They sent him to SEC Media Day, and they think Cedric Alexander is one of the best backs in the league, I think. I think that's still a little bit yet to be determined, but he's certainly got a case, and I think he's going to be one of the focal points of their offense this year. And, man, MK Young is really what they needed. There was a lot of debate prior to 2025 whether they needed to add a transfer running back, and they didn't outside of MK Young. And a lot of people thought MK Young wasn't going to be good enough, but man, he's really been a take the top off type of guy, really been an explosive playmaker for them. And you look at his yards per carry, it's insane. It's like you would think that's a tiny sample size, but it's not, because he ripped off more, I think, 50-yard runs or 50-plus yard runs than any Vanderbilt back in the last, I don't even know how many years. Just such an explosive compliment to Cedric Alexander. And I think almost does the things that Cedric Alexander doesn't do all that well for this Vanderbilt offense. I think they complement each other really well. And again, like you said, they're going to be a focal point for their offense this year. And I think they feel like they've got a lot to prove in that room too.
We're talking with Joey Dwyer from Vandy on SI. Vanderbilt's fall camp opened yesterday. Quickly, Joey, flipping over to the defensive side of the ball, you mentioned pretty healthy Vanderbilt team. They get Issa Wataha back. How much of a boost can he be on that defensive line after missing most of last year?
Yeah, that's a big deal. Former Vanderbilt defensive line coach Larry Black a few years ago said Issa Wataha's got a $97 million body, but it basically indicated that he has not played up to a $97 million player. Last fall camp, Clark Lee called Issa an NFL player, and obviously he missed last season for the most part outside of a few snaps against Virginia Tech. But I think the biggest indicator, kind of like Cedric Alexander, they sent him to SEC Media Day. They think he's going to be a real piece for them. They have real belief that he's got the potential to be somewhat of a game wrecker. And even if he's not, I think his frame is going to make him an NFL player. He's an X factor for them on defense. And I have all the expectation in the world that he's going to be a real piece for them that plays his best football yet by a significant amount. He's going to change the dynamic of their pass rush and their run stopping.
Last one for you, Joey. Thoughts on the gold uniforms that Vandy released last night?
I'm curious to what you guys think, because I've heard some interesting public discourse about it. I kind of like them, but I'm also wondering what they'll look like when the whole team's wearing them, if they'll look tacky or if they'll actually be really cool. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right that you can see the cinematic videos of them, but until you actually see them on the field, you don't really know. So I agree with you. I like them on first glance, but I will reserve judgment until we actually see them in a real game.
Okay, I feel like I'm getting ready to get ripped to shreds for saying this on the station. I really do. I understand that the fan base wanted these gold jerseys back, but just seeing them yesterday, they looked kind of plain to me. And I don't know. Maybe they look tacky when the season rolls around. Maybe they don't. I don't know. I feel like I'm with both of you. I just have to see them in a real game. But first glance, I thought they were all right.
Yeah. So their quarterbacks wear gold in practice, and I can't say I've ever loved it. So that's where my skepticism comes in. But you're right. Like the catered, marketed videos look great. So we'll see. But it sounds like the public perception, from what I've heard, it feels like it's a big swing to do this.
Yeah, and we'll have to see when they debut those on the field coming up in just about a month. Football season going to be here. Joey, appreciate you taking some time. We'll let you get back to practice, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, you guys do a great job. Appreciate you guys. Hopefully coming back soon.
Appreciate it, Joey. Joey Dwyer from Vandy on SI joining us to talk Commodores. Again, Vandy opening up their camp yesterday. We'll react to what Joey had to say and much more coming up next. Jake Lyman live today from Vanderbilt Health Football Center. Parker Kelley, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Today, the Nashville Sounds take on the Memphis Redbirds. First pitch is at 6:45, and you can catch all of the action on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks, Family Leisure, Maple Street Biscuit Company, and Social Cantina. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. I am live at Titans training camp, which gets underway in about 45 minutes. Again, not open to the public today, so we can't give you live updates, but we'll give you updates on what we saw whenever practice wraps up later on today. A big thanks to Joey Dwyer from Vandy on SI joining us in the last segment talking Commodores. And what Joey was saying, like a little plain maybe, but I do like that you've just got, hey, you've got your black, you got your white, you got your gold, and it gives them those permutations, the different combinations that they can use throughout the season. That just gives it a little bit of a fresh look instead of being black or white every single game.
And there's a little bit of nostalgia involved too. Like I know Chase was talking about yesterday how he was excited that they're bringing the gold jerseys back, and I know that reveal video or the teaser trailer that they did a couple days ago got everybody really excited. They're okay. It's good to have an alternate option, but at the same time, Vanderbilt has a lot of great uniforms as it is. It's okay, just not my favorite.
Yeah, and I saw a tweet here of like, you never know what shade of gold you're going to get with a gold jersey. Like we've seen this with the Saints, and Georgia Tech's jerseys have a little bit of a funky gold to it. It's more like a mustard color. It can be tough. I think that's a good gold. I will say my favorite Vandy jersey still, not my favorite for when I'm spotting up in the booth because these suck to try and figure out who's who. But the white with the gold numbers, I think, look the best. Although I was spotting for Andrew Allegretta in Blacksburg last year when they wore these, and it was so difficult to tell who was who because it's tough to see the outline of the numbers on the with the gold on the white.
So, do you like the all whites or do you like the whites with the black pants? What are we talking here?
All whites, gold helmet. Or maybe white helmet. I don't know. Like the Stormtrooper look, but with the gold numbers and the gold accents. Like I think that's the best look that they've got.
See, my personal favorites, I really like the all black. I just feel like that looks sharp. But I love the grays too. Just for whatever reason, I like the detailing that they did. I just have always been a big fan of the grays. The first time they wore those, when they switched to the new Vanderbilt logo, moved away from the star, I thought that looked really sharp. I think it was they played LSU in 24 at home.
Down in Death Valley.
No, was it in Death Valley?
Last year they played at home. They played them in 24 in Death Valley.
So it would have been 23 then when they played them at home, maybe. I'm sure. I think Diego Pavia was here, though.
So they went up early against LSU in Death Valley. I want to say they went right down the field and scored, and they ended up losing that game. And then last year they beat them. That was where Pavia juked out the one defensive end and ended up running to the end zone. And that was kind of the dagger for them. Did Brian Kelly get fired right after that game? It was somewhere like close to that. So
it was a year later, before Halloween last year.
No, that's what I'm saying is last year they played here.
Sorry, I got a phone call.
Okay, gotcha. Parker's on the phone. I will say on to the actual football field, less about uniforms here. I thought it was interesting, Joey, talking about the way the offense is going to be run under Tim Beck, depending on who the quarterback is. I think it's going to be different with whoever wins the competition, obviously. With Blaise Berlowitz, he is more of the typical quarterback that you would imagine in that Tim Beck offense. He can run the option plays, and he's been in this system for a long time, was at New Mexico State, has been at Vanderbilt for a few years. He's going to have a better grasp of the specific Tim Beck system. But I do think with Jared Curtis, it opens up the door to do more things. He does have the athleticism, and he does have the speed to be able to run the option stuff. And a lot of that does come with the decision-making too, which you're putting a lot on the plate of a freshman. But he also has the much, much higher level of arm talent than Blaise Berlowitz, which allows you to maybe do more of the downfield passing plays that you saw last year with Diego Pavia that were worked in. From 24 to 25, you added a lot more of that downfield passing game. I think with Curtis, you're able to keep that in and play to his strengths a little bit more.
That's kind of what I've been thinking too. You were able to get much more out of Diego Pavia than anybody thought was possible.
Yep.
And now that you have a true freshman quarterback coming in who many services had him as the best quarterback, some services had him as the number one overall recruit. So imagine what you can do. Clark Lee has talked about it's not going to be as much of a physical learning curve for Jared Curtis because he's already a really big kid.
Yeah.
The arm talent's very evident. It can run the football well. It's more so of mentally, how long does it take you to get over that learning curve? So once Jared Curtis is able to get acclimated to the offense, and it may not be as quickly as this year, but going into his sophomore year, just imagine how much more dynamic that offense can be with a talent coming in like Jared Curtis.
Right. And that's a conversation that I've had with you, I believe, and some other people at the station of nothing against Diego Pavia. He was a great college football player, and Vanderbilt, like you said, got everything they could out of him. Heisman runner-up, got them to 10 wins last year. Diego Pavia, great player. But in terms of quarterbacking talent, Jared Curtis clears him by a mile. And it's if you can get him into that system, get him to do the things that Tim Beck needs him to do, and right, the mental side, developing that with Jared Curtis, the sky is the limit for him. Because, again, you're taking Diego Pavia, who, again, very good college football player, but there is a reason that he's not in an NFL training camp right now. Jared Curtis has the ability, the talent, and the physical skill to be a first-round NFL draft pick by the time he's done playing college football. I mean, 5-star recruit, that's kind of where you expect him to be. So if Tim Beck can channel that and get the most squeeze out of Jared Curtis, again, I don't think there is a limit to what this offense can be over the next few years.
If Jared Curtis is able to produce as much as Diego Pavia was, or the thinking is he's going to produce more than what Diego Pavia was able to do if he's at Vanderbilt for his entire career. If Jared Curtis does that, you're looking at a first-round NFL pick in the future. Yep,
and so I do think that's the difference they make. It's probably not going to look like that this year, right? Like he is a freshman, and if he starts, he's going to be thrown into the fire, and there's going to be a big learning curve with being an 18 or 19-year-old playing in the SEC. But I do think that with Tim Beck, you saw the development from year 1 to year 2 with Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt. The different things they were able to ask him to do, the wider variety of plays they were able to run. I do think that a year of experience for Jared Curtis, you look at 27, 28, this could be a dangerous Vanderbilt team with one of the better quarterbacks in the country if he lives up to the hype, which, again, number 1 quarterback in the country. There's a lot more talent there than Diego Pavia. It's just about developing him and getting the most out of him that you can.
That's why I was wanting to ask Joey about the change in offense, because I truly believe Tim Beck is one of the best at not just running the same offense and molding his players to fit that offense, but he's very good at adjusting, because you look at what Vanderbilt ran in 24, and it was very much a modernized triple option, kind of what Coastal Carolina ran when they had that magical run. I think it was 2019, 2020. But 25 last year, they really developed into one of the better passing teams, not just in the SEC, but in the country. And Diego Pavia was one of the best passers in all of FBS. With Jared Curtis, you're not going to run that triple option style offense that they ran in 24, just because that's not he's a runner. He can run, but that's just not going to maximize his strengths. You're going to want to pass more. So I'm curious to know if there will be a simplified version of what it was last year, kind of running the same thing this year to maximize Jared Curtis' strengths. And I'm sure they're going to incorporate more passing concepts, designs, less design quarterback runs. So I'm just interested to see what that looks like.
Yeah, I do think that, as we talked about, you saw the option style offense in 2024, and then you developed that into a more wide-ranging variable offense last year, where Tim Beck had more cards up his sleeve. He had more options, more levers to pull throughout the game. Maybe you go more into that side of it. Again, Jared Curtis can run the option, but that's not going to be his strength. Like you said, you play to his strengths. And I believe I saw Tim Beck said yesterday that one of his strengths is just the ability to push the ball down the field. So I do think that that's going to be the way they trend if Jared Curtis ends up being the starting quarterback. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Marshall on the text line says, do you think any of these teams in the NFL might consider Diego Pavia for a different position? The first thing that comes to mind for me is tight end, much like what the Jaguars did with Tim Tebow. Diego Pavia physically is not a tight end. But I do think that could be an option with his athletic ability. Like, I think first thing that comes to mind for me is like slot receiver, right? Like you saw Julian Edelman do it, if he was to move like that. That's
he's not a running back. Like he just doesn't have the speed. He was
Right.
crafty in college, but he didn't necessarily pair that
Breakaway
with
speed,
with high-end speed. And you can run away from guys at the collegiate level. You're not doing that at the NFL level. So
yeah,
I'd view him if he were. I don't see Diego Pavia wanting to switch positions. Just
no, I agree.
Not that he's necessarily stubborn in a bad way, which he can be sometimes, but he's going to want to play quarterback. He's not going to want to play anything else. If he did switch hypothetically, it's kind of like your Taysom Hill role where there's not a position, quote unquote.
Yeah.
It's more so you're just a gadget. You're a gadget guy. You're playmaker.
Yeah. I think if he changed positions, that would kind of be his role. But I think you're right. Like Diego Pavia, stubborn may not be the right word. He's going to persevere. Like he's not going to give up. I think he would rather go play somewhere else as a quarterback and try and work his way back into the NFL than switch positions. But again, we'll see. Right now, he's not in a NFL training camp. I believe he was out at Vanderbilt's camp yesterday. So he's at least still around the team. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'd love to hear from you. You can text or call, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel at 1025 The Game for live shows and exclusive content and chat with us there. We'll wrap up hour number 1 after this. Again, live at Titans training camp. Practice going to get started within about the next 30 minutes. So excited to see what the Titans do day 3 in pads here at Vanderbilt Health Football Center. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you on this Thursday. I am live at Titans training camp. Day 3 in pads, going to get started in a little under 30 minutes. Our coverage of Titans training camp is presented by Tennessee Brewworks, Parman Energy, the Music City Kickoff Game, Twin Peaks Restaurants, Parman Tractor and Equipment, and Tri-State Water Power and Air. Before we wrap up the first hour, we're going to get back into some NFL topics at 10 o'clock. But we've talked a lot of Vandy. Parker, I did want to give you the floor here for your way too early thoughts on the Vols as fall camp began out in Knoxville this week as well. Obviously, the big news over the past week, Arian Carter suspended for the first 2 games. Chaz Coleman also no longer with the program. What are your thoughts on what this Vols team might look like in 2026 as they gear up for the new season?
I feel good about pretty much every position outside of quarterback just because we don't know who's going to be the starter. I think it's going to be Faison Brandon personally, but at the same time, how much is what's a realistic expectation for a true freshman quarterback in a Josh Heupel offense? He has been able to get the most out of all the quarterbacks that he's worked with, whether it's been Hendon Hooker, Joe Milton. Not really, I can't really say the same thing about Nico, but same with Joey Aguilar. So here's what I expect from Tennessee this year. I view this team through the lens of what they're able to do in 2027. I see 2026 as a bridge year. Last year was a bridge year as well, so a double bridge year. But if you think about this 2027 roster, you're going to have a 5-star left tackle in David Sanders. You're going to have a 5-star in Faison Brandon. You're going to have a 5-star running back in David Gabriel Georges, a 5-star receiver in Tristan Keys. And if Mike Matthews decides to stick around for another year, that's 5 stars all on the same offense. So I view this Tennessee team through the lens of what they're going to be able to do in 2027. So when people say Josh Heupel is on the hot seat this year, I think it's total baloney. He was put in a awful situation with what happened with Nico last year, getting Joey Aguilar. He did the best that he could with Joey too. And this year, starting a true freshman is not really ideal in this landscape of college football for any coach. So you got to view this Tennessee team through the lens of what they're able to do in 2027. Have another year of patience. I know it's not the standard, but have another year of patience and look at what this team can do in 27.
Yeah, and I do think what he's done on the recruiting trail has kind of calmed down any of those talks of, this is a big year for Heupel. Bringing in 5 stars this year like Brandon and Keys, and then the commitment of DGG, I think, really re-energized this Vols fan base. Like I saw tweet after tweet after tweet and post after post after post about him committing to Tennessee. It's a huge, huge get for Tennessee, and I agree with you that, yeah, you may not be a playoff team this year, but you're going to be loaded with talent, especially on the offensive side of the ball next year. And I think that's when you really can start to come to these judgments on Josh Heupel.
Yeah, I just don't think it's fair. Tennessee fans, very passionate fan base. I'm one of them, and I'm in the fan base every day, so I understand the passion. I understand the level of expectation. At the same time, too, Josh Heupel was able to get this team out of the wilderness. Jeremy Pruitt, Butch Jones, Derek Dooley. I just don't want Tennessee fans to forget where Tennessee was during the era before Josh Heupel. Josh Heupel may have not been in the playoff conversation every year, but nationally they're discussed a lot more, and it's not in a negative connotation, really. It's in a positive light. So Josh Heupel's been able to bring this team out of the wilderness. And just have a little bit of faith, have a little bit of patience. In 2027, that roster is going to be loaded. And also, too, that's year 2 of Jim Knowles, which the defense, historically speaking, has been tough to pick up on. Okay, what does that look like in year 1? But year 2, everybody should have that system down.
Yes, that is true. That you're making that big change on the defensive coaching staff, bringing in Jim Knowles, and it may not click right off the bat. And again, with 2 of your key players that you expected missing at least the start of the season, of course, Chaz Coleman no longer with the team, but Arian Carter missing a couple games, it may not look great right off the bat. Like I would bet we get some overreaction about, man, this is the guy who was supposed to be such an upgrade over Tim Banks, but it's going to take some time to get everything settled in, especially if you're missing Arian Carter for the first couple of games. Outside of the quarterbacks, Parker, because that's the storyline for both Vandy and Tennessee. Who's going to start at quarterback? Is it going to be these 5-star true freshmen? Outside of the quarterbacks, who are some players that you're really excited to watch gearing up for this season and in the first couple of weeks of the year?
Well, I'm really excited about, I know it's not just one individual player, but I'm really excited about the offensive line. They returned 4 starters and only have to replace their right tackle, who David Sanders was your right tackle last year. He's flipping over to left tackle, I believe, to be his more natural position, and you got to transfer from LSU to come in and play right tackle. I'm really excited about that unit. Just the amount of experience that is going to be returning. I'm really excited about Deshaun Bishop. I love his story. I've never really understood, because this kid is, I believe, 3rd all-time in total career yards rushing for a Tennessee high school football player, and yet he was a 3-star coming out of high school. He only had 2 offers from a group of 5 school, and he had to walk on to Tennessee. And just the amount of expectations that he's been able to exceed for him has been a great story. Excited about the wide receiver room, really excited about the linebacker room. If you're going to miss Arian Carter, well, you have other guys too, right? That are able to come in there and play. Edwin Spillman, Jeremiah Thielander, Amari Campbell. I think they upgraded in the secondary with the transfer portal additions. The defensive line room is a lot thinner than it was the last 2 years, but still that first line rotation, even without Chaz Coleman, should still be pretty good. The only thing that you have to really concern yourself with is who's going to be the quarterback.
Yeah, and you mentioned the linebacker depth too. Just looking at silver lining here, obviously it sucks for the Vols that Arian Carter is going to miss the first 2 games, at least as it stands right now. But maybe that experience makes that room deeper and more experienced throughout the season, because injuries happen, and getting those reps against a team like Furman, maybe not, but against Georgia Tech, yeah, maybe it doesn't look as good with Arian Carter as it would with Arian Carter in there, but those guys are going to be more prepared if they're called on later on in the season.
Absolutely. And it's not ideal to miss Arian Carter for that Georgia Tech game, because they love to run the football. That's what Georgia Tech's identity is going to be under Brent Key. They're going to run the football. They're going to play good defense. No idea what to expect from Alberto Mendoza. Was very up and down throughout the spring, but I do know they're going to run the football. They have a great 1-2 punch at running back. So not having Arian Carter for that game is a huge loss, and the NCAA should be ashamed of themselves. The good news is Tennessee's deep at linebacker. So while they will be missing Arian Carter, it's not like they're running a walk-on backup out there. And these are guys that can play in the SEC.
Right, and that's, again, just looking for the silver lining in a bad situation, that those guys are going to get important reps, and you hope it doesn't cost you the game. You get a win, and then those guys are better prepared. I will say, Josh Heupel, I've become a bigger fan of Josh Heupel this offseason. He's been feisty the last couple of weeks, whether it was the Lane Kiffin comments at SEC Media Days and the way he's handled the Arian Carter suspension. Props to Josh Heupel. I like the way he's handled it.
The thing about Josh Heupel is when he goes to the podium, it is never going to be any more, any less than your typical coach speak. He's not going to give any other teams extra motivation to play them. It's going to be just your typical bland coach speak. But Josh Heupel is as competitive as they come. He's a killer. He's a silent assassin. So if you mess with his team, this Arian Carter thing, we all know, unless your name is Nick Fraser or Joe Dubin, that it's wrong, that he's being suspended by the NCAA. If you mess with his team, he's going to get feisty. And that's been on full display to start fall camp. I applaud Josh Heupel. I think that every challenge that's come his way, whether it's been the Nico situation, whether it's been Boo Carter, whether it's been Chaz Coleman, or this Arian Carter situation, Josh Heupel has handled it tremendously.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you'd like to join the conversation, you can text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Lots of college football talk in the first hour. We're going Titans coming up at 10 o'clock. We'll talk about some of the young defensive players who are popping throughout training camp. What can we expect for them when the regular season rolls around? And Connor Newt also going to join us live here from Titans training camp ahead of day 3 in pads at Vanderbilt Health Football Center. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you on your Thursday morning. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game, second hour on this Thursday. Jake Lyman live from Titans training camp, day 3 in pads here at Vanderbilt Health Football Center. Parker Kelley is back at our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Sadly, bittersweet tomorrow can't be White Girl Friday with Connor because TD had to mix up the schedule. But we're lucky enough that Connor is joining us up here for a couple of segments before practice. Connor, how's it going?
No, man, I'm the lucky one. I get to be up here with you on this. I mean, it's a beautiful day for football.
It is.
Perfect amount of cloud cover, not too hot.
I was worried it was going to be a little hot when we showed up. There was pretty much no cloud cover, but it's rolled in nicely. We got a little bit of shade, and players starting to hit the field here for practice. It gets going in about 15 minutes. I know you weren't out here Tuesday because you were with us back at the studio, but day 3 in pads, I think you got to see them start to get accustomed to it again. Robert Saleh said back on, I believe it was Saturday, that the first couple of days in pads can sometimes be a dud. I thought it was relatively competitive, but this could be the day where we really see it take it to another gear here as they ramp up for joint practices next week against San Francisco.
This is an exciting day for sure. I think what intrigues me the most is that matchup I've been telling you about, Alontae Taylor, Cornell Tate. I would say it's an even split 1-1 through the first couple of days of camp. I think Monday was Alontae Taylor's day. And then you could probably tell us better than I could because you were out here, but Tuesday was probably the Cornell Tate breakout day. So.
I will say the throw, and I was very disappointed. I said it yesterday. It happened literally like 2 minutes after we went off the air.
Yeah.
The Cam Ward to Cornell Tate throw was pretty. I mean, it was one of those where Cam let it go, and it was in the air for an eternity. And you're like, I thought he overthrew him at first. That was my first thought was he's not going to be able to get there. And it hit him right in stride.
Didn't look like he was covered, like there was anyone around him based on the video.
He beat 2 guys deep, and it was a beautiful throw, beautiful catch. That was the highlight of the day for the offense on a day that I think the defense won pretty comfortably on Tuesday. And we'll see what it looks like today. I think one of the big things that we're wondering about is whether Dan Moore is going to be out there after leaving practice early on Tuesday. We won't be able to tell you that until after practice. So going to be probably a couple hours before we actually know that. But I do think that's one of the big storylines today because, again, the Titans' tackle depth is non-existent. Nothing against Brandon Crenshaw, Dixon, Austin Deculus, but those aren't guys who have proven they can be consistent swing tackles in this league. And a Dan Moore injury would be pretty catastrophic at this point.
Yeah, no, the tackle depth is not great. I don't feel great about Austin Deculus at all. I think he's a mediocre swing tackle at best. He definitely can't fill the void of the left tackle, but we'll see. I don't know how severe the injury is, and like you said,
no one does.
We're not going to know until today, and obviously we can't tell you till after practice is done. But it is going to be interesting to watch. How much does that affect the team period? I mean, no fans out here, obviously, which is kind of great for a media perspective because it means we can go more places.
Yeah.
You got a better view today, so that's good.
Right.
But that is something I'm definitely going to be looking out for is that left tackle position. If Dan Moore is out here, which I don't think he's practicing today. I don't know. Robert Saleh is not speaking.
We won't know. I thought maybe Robert Saleh was going to speak before practice, but he's not. So that would have been how we would have known early. But
I'm okay with that.
Right.
I would rather hear the coach speak after practice.
I agree. That's the one part of it that is frustrating because, like Tuesday, coming off the practice field, of course Robert Saleh doesn't know. He's been running practice, so he's not going to have gotten that update from the trainers yet.
Right.
And then you don't get to hear from him until after practice. So, again, I agree. Taking everything as it is, I would rather have Robert Saleh speak after practice, but that's one of the few things with injuries where you're not going to know until after practice wraps up. But the offensive line, even with Dan Moore out, I think has held up a little bit better than I expected them to. There hasn't been as many reps where it's just instant pressure in Cam Ward's face. Now, there's been some of that. There's been some plays where the defensive line has blown it up. Also have to take it with a grain of salt because Jeffrey Simmons only was out there for like 3 or 4 snaps on Tuesday.
Yeah.
But I will say the offensive line, especially in the interior, has not been as much of a glaring issue as I expected when the pads came on.
No, it's not. And, obviously it's going to raise the question, is the offensive line good? Is the offense good, or does the defense just suck?
Right.
And vice versa. We're not going to know really, and honestly.
Till Tuesday, probably.
I wouldn't even say that. The electric substation has other ideas.
Right. The substation has claimed a quarter of the Niners roster at this point. Did you see 20 guys weren't practicing yesterday?
That's ridiculous.
20. Like that's almost half of your 53-man roster. You got 90 guys at least, but you got almost a quarter of your guys not out there. It's crazy.
And you have key guys in that as well. Like Mike Evans.
Half your wide receiver room.
Yeah.
I mean, and I heard you guys talking on DVD yesterday about John Lynch and his independent study that they brought in some renowned electromagnetic scientist who said it's a nothing burger was the exact quote. But I don't know, like 1 or 2 years, it can be a coincidence. Like when the Titans had the 2 years in a row where they played the most players across all of football.
Yeah.
Like there was no electrical substation or anything like that. Like there's no electromagnetic waves coming off the lake that were causing injuries. It was just kind of a coincidence. But year after year after year, the Niners are always among the league's most injured. Like I get it. Maybe it's not the substation, but it does look a little bit sketchy. I'm starting to get in on the conspiracy theory.
Oh, I am too. But you know who this is good for? If they're still as injured as they are right now?
The Titans, yeah.
Yeah. But specifically, Will Levis.
Yeah.
Will Levis could absolutely torch some third-string practice guys.
Yeah,
and
these guys
who
aren't going to be on a practice squad coming up this year will be out there because the Niners have no other options. I did want to just quick tangent off of this. I saw yesterday the Niners and Rams are doing completely different schedules for Australia. The Niners are getting there a week early to prepare and get used to the jet lag, and they're going a week early. The Rams are showing up the night before, they're playing the game, and they're leaving immediately after.
Oh.
That's really interesting to me. First game in Australia, you've got two teams doing completely opposite strategies.
This isn't the first time we've seen something like that, though.
Yes, but London's a little different than Australia.
Yeah, it is. It is. That is interesting. But I am excited about today. I'm curious because today I think they'll go a little bit more full force just because you don't have as many people here.
Right.
The offensive line question raises that, but I think Jeffrey Simmons will have something to prove today.
Yeah.
Can he stay contained?
Yep.
Nick and I had this conversation last night on the 6th. I don't think he's immature. I think he's quick-triggered.
Yeah.
But I do need to see some hands to ourselves. Let's go back to our kindergarten teachings.
Yeah.
We need to see that.
I do think that like immature, I don't think is the right word, and like undisciplined, I don't know if is the right word, but
I'd say emotional.
Emotional is the right word, and sometimes just doesn't know where the line is. And we've seen him get bad personal foul, unsportsmanlike conduct penalties before in games, and seeing him in the middle of almost every scuffle, it's like, I get it, Jeff. You want to, as Robert Saleh said, you want to toe the line. You want to be gnats. You want to be instigators. You want to be the team that other teams don't want to play because you're, was the word like towing the line of violence.
Yeah.
That was Robert Saleh said. But you got to know where the line is. And I think Jeffrey Simmons sometimes likes to play in that gray area and he gets in trouble for it.
But did you know that Jeffrey Simmons has a blood feud with J.C. Latham and he wants to murder him?
Yeah, I do understand because we've heard about J.C. and Simmons going after it a few times. Like on the surface, I do understand why people may be jumping to that conclusion, but
it's spoken like someone that's not out here.
Right. If you watched it on Tuesday, yes, Latham and Simmons, like Latham finished that confrontation. He didn't start it.
It was Schlottman.
Yeah, it was Schlottman and Simmons who got into it, and Latham came in and defended his guy on the offensive line.
And that's what I told our good buddy, and he told me to grow up. And I was like, you're coming after me, pal. Columbus, Ohio needs you.
Okay, I was like,
we're talking about our buddy Tic Tac.
Yeah, Tic Tac.
I'm not afraid to name him.
I thought that was it. I saw something from him yesterday that made me kind of laugh. Maybe it was that about Latham and Simmons going after each other.
I tend to stay away from him just because I think he's so. I don't want to go after him, but I think he's just so out of the loop and imbalanced as a reporter, and then to call me off base when I'm the one out here. Yeah. I had to.
Well, as somebody who hadn't been out here before until a week ago and now I've been out here 4 times, there is a difference between taking somebody's practice reports and actually seeing it with your own eyes.
Yeah, but
and
he's made a career off of that.
Right.
So, good for him.
I mean, that's that. There is a difference. I like to always, like last year during training camp, I wasn't out here, and I want to quote what TD's saying and like go off of theirs. It's different when you actually are seeing it happen. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'd love to hear from you. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll get into the defensive side of the ball a little bit coming up next. Talk about some of the young guys who have popped early in training camp and what we think we could see from them when the regular season rolls along. Connor Newt joining us for one more segment here ahead of the Titans' third practice in pads. Live from Titans training camp, Jake Lyman, Connor Newt, Parker Kelley, next man up, 102.5 The Game. This Saturday on 102.5 The Game, catch the Arena Crown Championship as the Nashville Cats take on the Albany Firebirds at F&M Bank Arena. Kickoff is at 3. Coverage with myself and Dr. Crane Nick Frazier will begin at 2:30 on 102.5 The Game. Excited to be up there again.
Heard you guys a little bit the other day.
It was fun.
Dr. Crane, no offense to him, he surprised me with his color commentary. I was impressed.
Yeah, no offense, but as someone who hadn't done color before, he had done sideline for some high school games. He was great. We had some fun with it. Highest scoring game in arena football history on Sunday.
What was the final?
92-76.
Nice.
Yeah. So
it's a basketball game.
We'll have some fun. Albany and Nashville, rematch of last year's Crown Championship where the Firebirds got it done. Cats trying to take home the title this year. Jake Lyman, Connor, Newt, Parker Kelley with you. We are live at Titans training camp. Practice getting set to start day 3 in pads. And Connor, we talked a lot about the offense in that first segment with you. I want to get to the defense.
Okay.
Which young defensive Titans players are you most excited for this season, given what we've already seen in training camp?
Anthony Hill.
Yeah.
I think he hasn't stepped into that premier role yet. Your 2 starters on that inside linebacker position are going to be Cody Barton and Cedric Gray. But Anthony Hill, and honestly James Williams too, those 2 at the inside linebacker position, they come out here and they make plays.
Yeah.
You've seen them. James Williams the other day with the one-handed grab, and then Anthony Hill had 2 interceptions that day, all 3 coming off of Mitch Trubisky. Which, is that more of a Mitch Trubisky thing or are those guys making play things? I don't know, but those 2 are exciting to me. I want to see more from Keldrick Folk, but he is one that intrigues me. Not going to say Nick Frazier's guy, Jackie Marshall. I still haven't seen him. I'll pay attention today. Yeah, go. You got to get a video of Jackie Marshall doing something during individual work for Nick Frazier. I'll tag him. He'll repost it like crazy.
The linebackers, I agree with you. They have been I don't want to say the highlight of camp so far, but maybe the best surprise that you've seen so far. Because, yes, you're right. Cody Barton, Cedric Gray, those are going to be your starting linebackers to start the season. Barton's got the experience to be the green dot guy, and he told us I hadn't looked back through the coaching history with him. He played in this system in Seattle, so he's familiar with this system from early on in his career. It makes sense he's your green dot guy. Then you've got Cedric Gray coming off the year he had last year. Makes total sense. But the depth, you had the question, Anthony Hill, James Williams, how fast are they going to be able to pick up this system? How much of an impact can they make? And both of them, against the 2s for the most part, have been very solid so far and have flashed multiple times.
I'm excited about it. Anthony Hill was probably my favorite pick of this past year. I think that's the consensus favorite, not just because of what he can do this year, which I think he can contribute a key role, but it's the potential that you see. He's got a high ceiling. Robert Saleh has talked about how he sees some Fred Warner traits in him. And if you can have an inside linebacker with Warner traits, I think you're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about the Anthony Hill. James Williams has been – I don't know why I'm surprised by him because he does this every year, it feels like.
Yeah.
Like he just makes plays in training camp and then ends up on the roster. But I think he can be a good rotational piece at that inside backer position. Inside backer room in general has been moderately impressive. If we want to go, I guess we can consider him a young guy. He's looking for a new contract. Jermaine Johnson has been a star of the defense so far. I mean, not just in the pass rush, but ended up with an interception the other day from Cam Ward.
Yes, he did.
He's been nothing short of spectacular to watch. I want to see him against a good offensive line, and we'll see that next week in San Francisco, barring
Trent Williams against Jermaine Johnson. I know Trent Williams a little bit past his prime, but still
a premier,
still a very, very good player and one of the highest paid tackles in the league. So I do question at his age how much he's going to be out there in the joint practices in preseason. But if he is, I think that will be a fun matchup to see how these edge guys match up against somebody of that caliber. I think you're right. Like the edge group is. I think it's most important for them to take a step this year, whether that's a guy like Jermaine Johnson, who has been in the league for 4 years. We've seen him produce, but it hasn't been consistent enough, and it obviously wasn't able to stay healthy with the Achilles injury.
Right.
Whether it's Femi taking a step forward, Keldrick Folk having a good rookie year, I do think that group is really crucial to this team. I said it yesterday. I thought Femi stood out. Corey and I had different views on Femi from Tuesday, where he watched him in the one-on-ones, and maybe Parker, you can chime in on this too. I know we talked about it a little bit yesterday. He watched him in one-on-ones and said Femi didn't do much. I watched him in 11-on-11 and saw him make a couple of big plays, including forcing that interception at the end of practice for Anthony Hill. So with Femi, not saying I'm expecting him to jump up and be a 7 or 8 sack guy, but I do think that you've seen him start to put together a little bit more polish to the raw potential that he came out of UCLA with.
Yeah, Femi was a key part of Monday's practice too, because if you remember, there was that one play in the team period where they shift right, Ward rolls right, throws crossbody, but here comes Femi in the pressure, and Amani Hooker picks him off. I think it was Amani Hooker.
Yeah.
But Femi, I've seen some good things from him. I need to see, oh my God, he's an incredible pass rusher, because that's kind of what you want in a second round or at least a high round pick like that. But I've been impressed with some of the things I've seen from him, and maybe it was a trust the process kind of thing. I mean, last year was not the ideal year for him. Not only did he not really contribute, he battled a lot of injuries, played in 7 games. 6. So you need to start seeing the steps. And he was a guy I was really curious about his role on the team this year with everything he added, and Johnson, and you draft Falk, and you have Jalen Harrell still. He's seeming like he's trying to put some things forth to stand out among the rest. And I don't think he's, oh my God, that's your 1A pass rusher. But he's done some good things. And I think if you have him in a rotational role, like I think they plan to do, then he can make some things happen, judging based off what we've seen in practice for him.
I just want to butt in just real quick. I think it's crazy that people are selling their stock on Femi so quickly after he missed so much time during his rookie year. And considering this guy only played edge rusher for half of his senior season at UCLA, now I have no idea if he's going to work out or not, but I do like him better in the Sala scheme versus the Denard Wilson scheme, where they had him dropping back into coverage, which a guy like that should never do. It's very simplified for him this year. They love the body type. He's a leaner guy, but he's also built like an action figure, and they're just going to tell him to just pin your ears back and go get after the passer. So like Anthony Hill, only focusing on Mike linebacker, Femi Oladejo's role has been simplified where, hey, he's just going and he's hitting anything that's moving. And that simplifies everything for him. So I do like that aspect of it all.
Right. That's exactly what I was going to say. Is on the surface, when they made the change for defense, I was wondering what Femi's role would be, because I think there was a question of whether he could be a hand in the dirt defensive end. And Robert Saleh immediately said when he was asked about it, that's what we scouted him as when we were in San Francisco. We scouted him as a 4-3 defensive end. And I think you're right, Parker, that giving him one role, saying you're going to go attack and you're going to go try and get the football instead of having to worry about, am I dropping back in coverage? What's my role on this play? Just go attack. Go get to the quarterback. Attack a gap. What was my favorite quote, I think, so far of training camp? Robert Saleh saying he thinks Aaron Whitecotton would blow up the building if he asked a defensive end to drop back in coverage. Like, I think that does fit what they want Femi to do. And I agree with you, Parker. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say I think Femi's going to be a multiple time Pro Bowler at defensive end. But I think it's way, way, way too early to just say he's trash or he sucks, which I think we hear a lot of, oh, Femi was a horrible pick. He's played 6 games, and he's in a defense that I think fits him a little bit more. Let's wait and see. I think there's way too much want to just immediately make a judgment and feel like you're right when we don't know anything. Like Femi Oladejo, again, he played 6 games in his rookie season. Let's see what he does this year before we jump to these conclusions.
In a much, much better defensive system with a guy that's familiar with calling plays. I mean, that was the whole knock on the staff the last 2 years is these guys have no experience. Guys, Now you have experience across the boards, and it's not just with Robert Saleh. You got Gus Bradley as well. So you have experience down the boards for this defense. So I feel like this is a best case scenario system fit for him.
Yep.
If he's going to take that jump, maybe not just this year, throughout his entire career, over the next couple of years, this is the place for him to be.
One guy that I am going to be focused on today, I think, and you mentioned him too, Keldrick Falk. I tried to watch him a little bit back on Tuesday, and it's just tough. Like talking to Corey, it's tough to see everything, right? Like on every play, you've got 22 different guys executing their assignments. You can't judge every single person all at once. Right. But I think that is somebody I want to focus on because you did take him in the first round. You traded up to take him in the first round. again, same thing I said with Femi. That doesn't mean he has to be an instant 7 or 8 sack guy, but you would like for him to be able to make an impact in this Robert Saleh scheme, rotating, getting out there for 40, 50% of snaps and making plays, whether that's in the run game or rushing the passer. So I do think I want to focus on Keldrick Falk a decent amount today.
He's interesting to me because I think he can be a sack the quarterback kind of guy, but his role at Auburn was more in the run game. So I think maybe that's the dynamic they're going to have. Jermaine Johnson will be the one to go, you want to get a sack, you send him as fast as you can. You just have him bull rush the quarterback. Maybe if you want to do something more grounded and prevent some yardage, you put Falk out there to stop the run, or you put Falk out there to pressure the quarterback or put them in a situation like that. He is interesting to me because I think he's similar to Anthony Hill, but on a better scale. Like, I think he's ready to play in the NFL. He's first round pick. He should be ready. But I think he's still young. He's still young.
21.
He can develop a lot more. And I think eventually we'll get to the point where Keldrick Falk, Anthony Hill, Kevin Winston, maybe Femi Oladejo, they're looked at the young cornerstone pieces of this defense. It just depends on if they pan out or not.
Right. You can visualize a young core for this defense based on what's been drafted the last few years. It's just about, are these guys going to develop into the players you drafted them to be? And I think you're right with Keldrick Falk. Like, the versatility that he and John Franklin Myers brings, I think just opens up a lot of doors for what Robert Saleh wants to do with that defensive front. Connor, we will let you go. I know practice about to get started, so we'll let you get down there. Make sure to follow along with Connor's updates from practice today on your social media platforms at 1025 The Game and at C_Newt15 on X. Connor, thanks for coming up. We will talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We'll see you probably Tuesday. Will be the next time.
We'll chat Tuesday when joint practices are going on in Santa Clara.
So Parker and I will see you tonight. We'll talk tonight. 6 to 7 tonight.
Make sure to tune in for that as well, right here on 1025 The Game. 615-737-1025. We'll react to what Connor had to say. Continue to talk Titans defense after this. Next man up here on 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. Live from Titans training camp today. All of our training camp coverage is presented by Tennessee Brewworks, Parman Energy, the Music City Kickoff Game, Twin Peaks Restaurants, Parman Tractor and Equipment, and Tri-State Water, Power, and Air. Big thanks to Connor for coming up and joining us for a couple of segments here before practice starts. Now, again, it is a closed practice to the public, so we cannot tell you anything that's going on before practice ends. But Paul Kuharski did just tweet this out about 10 minutes ago. Dan Moore will be back in action today. So crisis averted for the Titans, that their starting left tackle won't have to miss more than the 3 quarters of practice that he missed back on Tuesday. Again, we can't tell you what's going on out here on the field, but Paul Kuharski reporting that Dan Moore will be back in.
I didn't see it, but I heard other people say they saw Dan Moore go back into the locker room early during the team portion of practice. And when you saw Austin Deculus and Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon trot out there at left tackle running a rotation, that's not exactly encouraging for the fans that were in attendance watching the practice. So Dan Moore, he's not, the best left tackle in the NFL by any stretch of the imagination, but he is your left tackle, and he's better than the other options that you have at that position. We know what Dan Moore is at this point in his career. It just helps for, a quarterback going into his second year to have some sort of continuity on his blind side, that left side of the offensive line. So getting Dan Moore out there is good news, despite him not being some sort of, elite level left tackle.
Yeah, I mean, again, we don't want to act like Dan Moore is Joe Thomas. He's not. But when you don't have a ton of depth behind him, you've got Deculus, who was a reserve level player with the Chargers, and Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon, who was an undrafted guy last year. You need to have those guys healthy. And so it's good to see Paul Kuharski reporting that Dan Moore going to be back out at practice today. We were talking defense with Connor, and we talked about some of the young players on the defensive side of the ball that have flashed so far on the defensive line, in the linebacking group. Anthony Hill and James Williams, I think, have been 2 of the big standouts of camp so far. I will say, and maybe this is a good thing, Kevin Winston and Marcus Harris have been a little bit quiet in the secondary. I haven't noticed them quite as much. Marcus Harris did nearly have an interception on Tuesday. He caught it along the sideline and was out of bounds before he could get the feet down. But outside of that, I haven't seen a ton. Again, I don't know what that really means, because sometimes in the secondary and the offensive line, you'd rather not notice them very much, because if you're noticing them, that probably means they're not playing very well.
Yeah, there are a couple of different ways to look at that. It's the same thing with the offensive line. If we're not talking about them, that means they're not the biggest issue. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. I love for Marcus Harris, people don't realize how good that secondary was at Cal, his final year as a Golden Bear. They had a really good secondary. So the fact that he was a 6th round pick two drafts ago, I thought there was some value there, and there is going to be some value because he's going to be starting at nickel for you. But I also think it helps that Marcus Harris has a nickel specific coach. He's not working with the corners coach. He's not working with the safeties coach. He gets his own specialized nickel coach, and really that entire room does as well. They're going to ask the nickel position in this scheme to do a lot more than nickels have in the past for the Titans. So having a specialized nickel coach, I think, is going to serve Marcus Harris very well.
Yes, I agree with that. And Marcus Harris, I'm excited to see what he does. I mean, you saw him out there a decent amount last year with the injuries that they had in that room, and you trade away Roger McCreary midway through the season. So he got opportunities. The staff seems very excited about Marcus Harris. Every time that Robert Saleh or Gus Bradley talks about him, they rave about Marcus Harris. You need your day 3 picks to, not all of them, but you need some of your day 3 picks to hit. Like we've talked about the Titans draft classes from 2020 to 2023, and there's just nothing that of value that you were able to find until you drafted Peter Skoronski. The last couple of drafts, there's guys that you drafted late that are showing some promise. In 2024, you got James Williams and Jalen Harrell in the 7th round. Those 2 guys have both flashed at times. Harrell a little bit more in actual game settings, but Williams has flashed throughout training camp. Last year, your day 3 picks, pretty much all of them have at least given you hope that they can be regular contributors for this team. Chim DK in special teams and at wide receiver. Gunnar Helm, Alec Iamaner. Jackson Slater might start on your offensive line. Marcus Harris. So that's a group. Yes, the most important group for the Titans over the next few years is your first-round picks. J.C. Latham, Cam Ward, Carnell Tate, Keldrick Falk. Those guys need to end up being the pillars, the cornerstones of your franchise. But whiffing on all your third-round picks also isn't great, and that's what they did for 3 years there. Seeing some promise from these late-round guys has been nice to see last year and into training camp this season.
I think that's why Mike Borgonzi gets a lot of credit for the job that he's done over the last 2 draft cycles, because there are higher expectations for some of these later-round picks. And especially those fourth round guys, the trio of receivers that you had with Chim DK, Alec Aomanor, and Gunnar Helm. Gunnar Helm going to be your starting tight end this year. Alec Aomanor is getting a lot of reps with the ones right now. He's probably not going to be a starter, but he's going to play a lot. And then Chim DK, an all-pro punt returner as a rookie. So a lot of value there. And even into the later rounds, James Williams, I believe, is going to make the 53. Had a really good practice on Tuesday. We'll see what he looks like today. Jalen Harrell, I think he's more so a fringe guy, but I still see him making this roster. And then Marcus Harris starting for you at nickel. There's a lot of value there in those later rounds, which when you've drafted as bad as the Titans have over the last 4 or 5 years, you need to be able to hit on some of these later round guys. And it appears on the surface right now from a 50,000-foot view that they have at least done that.
Yeah, and GMs are going to be defined by what they do at the top of drafts. If Cam Ward ends up being a bust and he's not your franchise quarterback, and J.C. Latham doesn't pan out as your right tackle, and I know that was a Rand Carthon pick, or Carnell Tate ends up just being a guy at wide receiver, that's what Mike Borgonzi is going to be remembered for, right? Like, we remember the end of the John Robinson era, not because he missed on Theo Jackson and Jalen Duncan. Sorry, Jalen Duncan was Rand too. Racy McMath and Brady Breeze. We remember it because of Isaiah Wilson, Caleb Farley, and Traylon Burks in the A.J. Brown trade. Like, that's what you're going to be remembered for as a GM. But when you're building a roster and trying to get the best 53 out there, your 4th, your 5th, your 6th, your 7th round picks, they all can't be whiffs. And for a while they were. And I've enjoyed watching the last couple of days, seeing these guys really look like they're ready to take a step forward. James Williams, I think, has had one of the more impressive camps that we've seen from anybody so far against the Twos, and he's probably not going to be a starter, but that's how you build depth on a roster, is finding 5th, 6th, 7th round picks who can actually contribute to your team.
With James Williams, I'm glad that the Titans were able to get him in the 7th round, because there's not a lot of value or stock put into a 7th round pick. But for James Williams, we're talking about a 5-star that was, heavily recruited by, Alabama and Nick Saban. Yep. Ended up going to Miami. He played safety, and it was a really good safety for Miami, but was just too slow to play safety in the NFL. They moved him down to linebacker, and he played last year at, I think the number was 245, 250. He's slimmed down significantly, is at 220 now, but he still has the length, and he still has good enough size where, he's considered a slower safety, but a quicker linebacker. So there's a lot of value there, and he's certainly shown that. So I like this inside backer rotation they have right now with Cody Barton and Cedric Gray, who's top 5 in the league in tackles last year. And then your 2nd round pick, who you're going to mold into your starting green dot Mike linebacker at some point, and Anthony Hill and James Williams. I really like that rotation of inside backers.
Yeah, that's been one of the better groups so far in training camp that we've noticed the most. And Dave Borgonzi, the linebackers coach, doing a nice job. I know there was a little bit of controversy around that throughout the offseason. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'd love to hear from you. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We will finish up the 2nd hour on this Thursday. Coming up next, some NFL news and notes from yesterday. A big workout in Los Angeles. We'll talk about that. And the Commanders sign a wide receiver with some off-the-field concerns, but maybe not the one who's been clamoring for it. We'll get into it next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 125 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. I am live at Titans training camp. Third day in pads here at Vanderbilt Health Football Center. We'll give you updates once practice wraps up. Wanted to get to some NFL headlines, but before we do that, Parker, I saw your graphic about being the Akron offensive coordinator. It seems like you've really gaslit some people around your circle into thinking that you're actually moving up to Ohio.
I have unintentionally caused some waves within the Parker Kelley circle. My team chaplain from my college days just texted me about 10 minutes ago, congratulating me on the new position. I want to get out ahead of the rumors. We talked about this with Corey yesterday. It was a joke. It's a complete joke. I'm not a season ticket holder for Akron. I'd love to be considered. Definitely not going to win, but still, I was trying to put a joke out there, and it seems that more people are actually falling for it than I imagined.
Yeah, for anyone out there who hasn't seen this, it went viral the last couple of days. Akron Football has released a promotion where if you sign up for season tickets, you are automatically entered into a raffle where one person will be allowed to call the opening series of their home opener against Robert Morris. And so Yahoo Sports put this out there within the last hour. Akron's football suites are already sold out for the first time in program history following its viral play calling promotion. The offer includes a pregame press conference, being mic'd up with a headset and play sheet, and being in the coach's box during the game. So there you go. That's what it includes. That's for $75 to be entered. That's not bad. And honestly, what a genius idea for Akron, where it's one series. And I'm sure that it's self-contained. Like, they're not going to let you call whatever play you want. We talked about this yesterday. It's not like they're pulling up Madden. It's like, all right, scroll through the playbook and pick which plays you want. I'm sure you have a selection of a few plays on each circumstance, first down, second and long, second and short, all that kind of stuff. And they're going to make a lot of money from this because people want that opportunity. Apparently, the Akron athletic department leaders are going to appear on the Pat McAfee show today to talk about this. So what a genius marketing idea. And Parker, I think maybe you should put $75 in to see if you can make this happen.
I'm honestly not opposed. $75 is pretty cheap for season tickets. And if it means I get to call a opening drive of a game, I'd say that my $75 went to good use.
Yeah, no, that's true. And if you don't get it, I know like the Masters lottery is free, but it's like, I feel every time I'm like, well, at least I signed up and, maybe one day it'll happen. I love it. And guess what? You'd be a perfect candidate. Being a former college quarterback, like that's what they would want in this. Somebody who's going to know the flow of the game and isn't going there completely blind. I think you would do a great job.
Well, I do have my first play scripted, and notice how I said play, the singular version, not the plural, because we're scoring on the first play.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, you're giving me one drive, and it's a 75-yard bomb, game over, and they're not going to let you take the headset off. I love that though, that you get a pregame press conference and you get the play sheet with the headset on. Like, if you're going to do this promotion, you got to make it worth it for whoever wins. And I think the way that they're setting it up, I think this would be one of the coolest experiences ever. So props to Akron football. What an awesome idea.
No, it's great. And I saw Dan Dockage, who I think he's still with Outkick, also posted a graphic that he is going to be the new offensive coordinator. Akron reposted it. So they're having fun with all these. They're in on the jokes too. So it's a great promotional idea, and it's getting people invested into Akron football. And honestly, in an era where every little inch matters to try to get as much recognition to your program, to get as much money invested in your program as possible, it's honestly not a bad strategy.
Right. For a school like Akron that, nothing against the Zips, but do you think they've ever sold out season tickets? Like,
no.
Right. Like, this is an opportunity for you to get revenue that you wouldn't have had previously. And the price of the season tickets is low enough that people are willing to do it just for the opportunity to do this. $75, like, it's not no money, but it's it's low enough that people are willing to give it up just for the chance that they can do this. I saw that Akron, like the Athletics account, tweeted out, "Will Barstool Big Cat be our offensive coordinator for the Robert Morris game?" Like, they're playing into all of this stuff too. I think it's awesome.
Oh no, it is great. I mean, celebrities are in on this. This post on Monday night made a lot of headlines. That's why when I posted this, I was surprised at the amount of people that actually believed it was true. They're not going to make their announcement about who the offensive coordinator is going to be 2 days after the post was sent out.
Oh, right. They've got to milk this for as long as they can. Like, I guess you've got a month until somebody's got to be there in Akron calling the plays, but I would guess they're going to milk this for at least a week or so to see how many people they can get to sign up. So one of the best stories of the week. Well done to Akron football. It's a win-win for everybody. Now, there are going to be a lot of empty seats at Akron games this year because there are going to be people buying these tickets that have no intention of actually going to the games. But the check's still clear. Like they can still they're still getting that money. So I don't think they really care how many empty seats they're going to have in the stadium this year.
But no, for those of you that are asking, I'm not moving to Akron, Ohio. I did not actually get this job, but if Akron were to come calling, I would take it in a heartbeat. I might have to leave the show a little bit early on that Thursday, Jake. Just a fair warning. So gotta go call plays for the Zips.
We'll make it work. Me and TD will hold down the fort for you to go live out the dream of calling plays for Akron. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. New York Doug is texted in and actually agreeing with us, Parker. We talked to start the show about the Hall of Fame game tonight, and he says, pains me to agree with you guys, but I am also just happy for football tonight. So New York Doug on the same page with us for once.
You know what? I'd like to throw a bone to New York Doug. I'm really excited to watch Jackson Dart this year. You know, I'm a big Jackson Dart fan. I hope that he protects himself and plays smart. You know, doesn't take all those unnecessary hits, so we can actually see him play a full season.
Yeah, I mean, we bar back and forth with New York Doug a little bit. We throw barbs at each other. Like it's all in good fun. I like Jackson Dart. Like, I have no problem with him. Now, again, if you ask me who I would take long-term at quarterback, I'd still can't say Cam Ward as of right now. But I like Jackson Dart, and I'm excited for week 3. New York Doug better be texting in consistently week 3 when the Titans are getting ready to go face the Giants, because that will be a fun matchup for all of us here. I mean, a lot of the players and coaches around here for the Titans making a homecoming too. So that'll be a fun week for sure.
On a more important note, wasn't there supposed to be a 2v2 scramble between you and I and his twins?
Yes. Let me scroll back through the text.
We need an update on that, New York Doug, because I've been patiently waiting.
Scrolling back through, he says that Jackson Dart, top 5 quarterback in the league. Yeah, he said sometime in August. So we're in August. We'll see if that gets done. I might golf sometime this weekend to warm up. You know, just make sure that the swing's feeling good before we get into it.
I also need to get out there and swing a little bit too. Trying to get some core work though done in the gym to hopefully boost the stroke a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. Get that torque going through on the swing. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see if that actually gets done. 4312 says, New York Doug agreeing. Wow, must have taken more hits than Jackson Dart last night. Well done, 4312.
That was a good comment. Good comment.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'd love to hear from you. We've got one more hour left with you on this Thursday. Again, live from Titans training camp. Can't give you updates as things are going on, but we'll update you at the end of practice on what went on today. And stick around after we're done, of course, for the Chase and Big Joe show, but we'll have a player interview coming up later on early this afternoon as well. 615-737-1025. We'll get into some NFL headlines coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5, the game final hour on this Thursday. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. I am once again live at Titans training camp. Third day in pads underway here at Vanderbilt Health Football Center. Parker is back at our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We'll talk plenty of Titans here in this final hour. I did want to bounce around to some NFL headlines. Yesterday, usually, like the NFL transaction wire around now is pretty pointless, where you're looking through and it's like, all right, this undrafted free agent worked out here. This team cut this guy. But there was a name on there yesterday that popped up. Aaron Donald working out for the Los Angeles Rams. Sean McVay made a little joke about, we'll see if the kid can stick around at this level. And it's been rumored for the last few months since Myles Garrett was traded back on June 1st. And it seems like it's getting closer and closer to fruition that Aaron Donald is going to be back on that Rams defensive line looking for another Super Bowl championship this season.
I saw that news yesterday. I do think this is going to happen. I'm curious to know the timing of the situation, if it's going to be a move made during the season or if they're going to wait towards the end of training camp, because Aaron Donald, if we're being honest, does not need to go through another training camp. He's been through plenty of them. And even though he's been out of the game for a couple of years, he still, works out regularly. He'll be fine. Or is this move going to be, post the month of October or, midway through the year? I just want to know the timing of all of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I would assume that he's probably going to join the team for week one, but I do think he's going to be a limited piece for them. He's not going to be out there as much as he was back in his prime. He's we looked, he's what, like 34, 35 now? He's been out of the league for a few years. He cannot be what he was before. He just turned 35 years old. But I heard Charles Robinson say this with Robbie and Joe this morning. 90% of Aaron Donald is better than 100% of a lot of people. So I do think that he is going to be an impactful player. I don't think that he's going to be some kind of game changer. The Rams can win the Super Bowl without Aaron Donald with the talent they already have on that roster. But I do think that it can't hurt to add a guy like Aaron Donald to your team. Obviously, even being out of the NFL for a couple of years.
The great thing about this is they don't need what Aaron Donald was in his prime, because that defensive line and the depth that they have is going to be just fine with or without Aaron Donald. And to be honest, it looks like LA is the runaway Super Bowl favorite as it stands in the preseason. They could win a Super Bowl this year without Aaron Donald. But if you add him and you have him, rotate in and out, the Robert Saleh strategy, play about 60% of the snaps, that's better than nothing, right? So
right.
LA is going to be fine with or without Aaron Donald. But if you add him, that just bolsters expectations out there in California.
Right. I mean, that team is good enough with the MVP playing quarterback and a loaded wide receiver room and Myles Garrett now added. And then they add two really high-level cornerbacks, both from the Chiefs, and Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson. So that team is already loaded. He had the Hall of Fame defensive tackle. Even at his age, I think it's only going to help that team. Other news yesterday, there's been a receiver who's got some off-the-field issues, who's been out there for a while, and the Commanders finally gave in and signed him. No, it's not Brandon Ayuk. It's Stephon Diggs, who is going to go play with the Commanders. The Brandon Ayuk saga, I think, might be coming to an end. Like the Niners, I think, eventually just have to cut ties and say, see ya. Like, you don't need to be here anymore. And we'll see if another team wants to take a chance on you, but it's not going to happen here. But I think this almost certainly shuts the door of Ayuk getting his wish and getting to go play with his former quarterback at Arizona State with the Washington Commanders.
Correct. And, Terry McLaurin is what he is. He's a very reliable receiver, but I'd say he's on the maybe the downside of his prime. I still think he has some good years left, but Stephon Diggs is a guy that can still really play. He may not be Stephon Diggs, the Buffalo Bills or even the Minnesota Vikings, but he can still play. And Washington needed more help with their receiving core. and adding Stephon Diggs on a 1-year, $12 million deal.
Yes,
low risk, high reward type deal. It gives Jaden Daniels some extra help. So, did you call this?
I might have,
because I remember you talking about Stephon Diggs maybe going back home to Washington.
Yeah, oh yes, you're right. We did talk about
this.
And
then TD was mentioning, well, what about Baltimore?
Yeah. I think we did talk about those two as a very possible outcome for him. Again, played at Maryland, grew up in Maryland, so being back in his home state. Yes, the Commanders play in Landover, at least for now. That makes a whole lot of sense for him. And you're right, like the Commanders' depth chart at wide receiver, it was Terry McLaurin and kind of just a bunch of guys, including some guys we're familiar with around here, Traylon Burks and Van Jefferson. I do think that they needed to add to that room, and Stephon Diggs is a good fit for Jaden Daniels, who, when you look at his, they have Antonio Williams, who was he drafted this year or last year? This year, 3rd-round pick out of Clemson. Yep. So they've got him, they've got Burks, they've got Luke McCaffrey, De'Ami Brown's still there. But the weapons, you add Rashad White, you add Chigakonkwo. It's not like they've surrounded Jaden Daniels with just a star-studded group. So adding a guy like Stephon Diggs, who even, as we said about Aaron Donald, not Stephon Diggs of the past, but somebody who can be a contributor for this team and be a veteran presence in that room, I think is important for Washington.
So you go from having Terry McLaurin, who we just talked about being on the down end of his prime, De'Ami Brown, and Antonio Williams, who's going to be a rookie this year, to now having Terry McLaurin, Stephon Diggs, and Antonio Williams, who's a really good receiver at Clemson. I think that receiving core right there, that starting three, suddenly looks a lot more formidable than it once did. May not be the best in the NFL, but at least it's another weapon for Jaden Daniels, who was hurt for basically all of last year. And if he's able to stay healthy, he has some people to dish the ball to.
I think this fills the Deebo Samuel void, who goes back to San Francisco. And
exactly.
This offensive line, I think, is more important than the weapons for Jaden Daniels. Like, it's not like Jaden Daniels' weapons the year they went to the NFC Championship was just this star-studded group of Hall of Fame wide receivers and tight ends. It was pretty similar to what you see now. The offensive line keeping Jaden Daniels healthy is going to be the most important part of this season for Washington, because last year we talked about it with quarterback. Like the Jaden Daniels story arc during quarterback was every 3rd week. And here it comes. Jaden Daniels back on the football field for the Washington Commanders. A couple of highlights. Oh, and after the play, Jaden Daniels a little slow to get up, and he missed 4 weeks. So keeping Jaden Daniels healthy, that is priority number 1 for Washington. And if the offensive line is better, I think it doesn't really matter. It matters, but you can deal with lower-end weapons for Jaden Daniels if you can get the offensive line right.
And, yeah, Laramie Tunsil is still a really good option at left tackle. So protecting the blind side of Jaden Daniels is going to be paramount. I do believe Jaden Daniels needs to, him and Jackson Dart can take a same page out of the notebook in protecting their bodies. Jaden Daniels is still really, really slender and needs to put on some weight. You got to protect a guy like that, and you got to protect yourself, most importantly, because you can't afford to keep getting hurt. I mean, it's kind of like, the CJ Stroud conversation, a little different twist to it, but they both had some of the best rookie years at quarterback that we've seen in recent memory. Yeah, ever. Yep. But since that point, it hasn't been the same for CJ. It's just been the turnovers, but for Jaden Daniels, it's been plagued by injury. You got to protect yourself.
Yep, it's a big year for Jaden Daniels. I am interested to see what Chigakonkwo does there, because Chig always felt like a player who didn't live up to his potential here. He had a good rookie season, and then I always look back, and maybe this is just me, I look back, he had back-to-back drops in a preseason game against the Vikings heading into year 2. And I don't know why. I felt like he was never the same after that. There was a lot of excitement heading into the season, and then he just started to run into those inconsistency issues where he was dropping the football. He's a good player, and he led the team in receiving last year. So it's not like he's going to go there and do nothing. But I am interested to see, in a new situation with a new coaching staff, a new system, and a new quarterback, what can Chigakonkwo do next year?
You know who their offensive coordinator is, right, in Washington?
Who did they get to replace Kingsbury?
David Blau.
Oh, right. You're right. It is David Blau. We talked about Hard Knocks the other day. Hard Knocks legend David Blau.
Yeah. No, that was a great season of Hard Knocks. Probably my favorite. In at least the last 5 to 10 years. I have no idea what the offense will look like, but I know that if David Blau is smart, which I believe that he is, you see how Chigakonkwo was used and should have been used here more so, and just getting him the football and letting him go because he's an athlete and not relying on him so much to be a pass blocker. I think that would work out pretty well.
I agree. I think that Chig, when he's used the right way, we've seen what Chigakonkwo can do. I think a change of scenery and a fresh start, I think it will be good for him this year, and we'll see how he's able to perform. He is the number 1 tight end in that room in Washington. I mean, they've got some other guys that you like. John Bates played a little bit for them last year. What did he end up with stats-wise? 103 yards last year. So, but he's not a tight end 1. That's going to be Chig's spot, and we'll see how he ends up taking advantage of it. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We love to hear from you. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Titans practice underway here at Vanderbilt Health Football Center. Day 3 in pads. We'll give you updates once practice wraps up. Coming up next, Parker, yesterday with Corey, I asked you guys in or out of the playoffs for college football teams. Let's do it for the NFL coming up next. I've come up with 5 teams that I think it could go either way. These aren't your juggernauts. These aren't your teams in the cellar of the NFL. I want to know what your thoughts are in or out of the playoffs. We'll do it next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. I am live at Titans training camp, day 3 in pads. Third of 4 padded practices this week. Tomorrow is the scrimmage over at Nissan Stadium tomorrow night, so that should be fun. Parker, you're going to be out there covering it, correct?
I will be present. Very excited.
Love it. Love it. I might go out and just sit in the stands. Like I don't have much going on. My wife's out of town this weekend. Maybe I will go over there and watch. Our coverage of Titans training camp is presented by Tennessee Brewworks, Parman Energy, the Music City Kickoff Game, Twin Peaks Restaurants, Parman Tractor and Equipment, and Tri-State Water, Power, and Air. We're talking NFL storylines, big picture here. We went through some of the news from yesterday. Aaron Donald working out for the LA Rams as he ponders a comeback. Stephon Diggs signs with the Washington Commanders. Yesterday, Parker, you, me, and Corey, we went through 5 college football teams in the SEC and the Big Ten and asked, are they a playoff team or are they not this year? I thought, why not do it for the NFL too? So I've got 5 teams for you. I want to know if you think they are a playoff team or not. Let's start with a little bit of I think this one is very tough because talent-wise, I think the answer is yes, but you just haven't seen it the last few years. The Cincinnati Bengals, are they a playoff team in 2026?
Starting out hot, are we, Jake? All right. Here's what I'll say about the Bengals. I tend to take Joe Burrow at his word because he's not a guy that I want to doubt on a regular basis. And he says this is the best roster he's had since being drafted, the best roster he's had since 2019 LSU. I tend to believe him. The offense has not been the problem in Cincinnati. It's always been the defense. But some of the pieces they have brought in on defense, including bringing in Dexter Lawrence, who top 10 defensive tackle in the league, I think they did upgrade at the spots that they needed to. Defense still may not be the best or great, but it'll be good enough to get them in the playoffs. And we all know once they get in the playoffs, they can be dangerous.
Yeah, and I really like Joe Burrow. I do. I know some people want to take him out of that top tier of quarterbacks, but I really do think when he's healthy, that there isn't a better distributor of the football in the league. Maybe Patrick Mahomes. He's won 3 Super Bowls. I got to give him his flowers. But Burrow, I think, is up there. When he's healthy and he's rolling, he's really tough to stop. And you're right. The defense has been the problem there. They get Dexter Lawrence. I saw somebody reported that Sexy Dexy is blowing up Bengals camp. Like he's had a huge start to training camp. So that could be a big development for Cincinnati. I'm going to say yes. I think the Bengals are a playoff team this year. I don't know if they win that division, but I think they're good enough to get in after a couple of down years.
Well, it's certainly going to be between them and Baltimore. I'm just not confident that Pittsburgh is suddenly going to be more explosive with a 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers. I'm not buying that. I think they can be better than last year with Mike McCarthy, given that he's more of an innovator on the offensive side of the ball. But it's going to come down to Baltimore and Cincinnati as long as Joe Burrow is healthy. But on the defensive side for Cincinnati, too, don't overlook the Boye Mafe signing, too. That's a really big deal for them.
Yeah, and they got a nice break earlier in training camp where it looked like Shamar Stewart, their first-round pick from 2 years ago, I believe he had to be carted off, and it ended up not being super serious. So we'll see how that team looks defensively. But the offense, with the weapons they have, and if Burrow stays healthy, they're going to be one of the best units in the league. So I'm going yes for the Bengals. Next team, the Dallas Cowboys. And my answer for this one. I've got them winning the NFC East. I've already predicted that, one of my bold predictions for the season. Do you think the Dallas Cowboys are a playoff team this year?
I do. I love Dak Prescott. I love the offense that Schottenheimer runs in Dallas. It's kind of the same thing that we were talking about with the previous team, Cincinnati. It wasn't their offense that let them down last year. When you have the combination of CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens on the outside, you're going to be just fine. And you have Dak Prescott, who is firmly in tier 2 of quarterbacks in the NFL, I believe. I believe the defense, it's hard to be much worse than it was last year. I think that they will be improved. And even if that defense is slightly improved, Dallas was on the outside looking in last year. They were in the hunt. I think they do step up this year and get in the playoffs.
Yeah, I just think that offense is too talented with Prescott and Lamb and Pickens and Ferguson, and they've got the offensive line, and they've added to the defense. Like, I know Rashawn Gary maybe isn't the same player that he was 2 years ago with the Packers, but They bring him in on the edge. They've got Quinnen Williams. They've got Kenny Clark. They add in the secondary. They still have Deron Bland. You draft Caleb Downs. I think this is a good team, and I think they're going to win the NFC East. I like the Eagles too, and I think the Eagles are probably a playoff team, but I'm going to say the Cowboys win that division. All right, number 3. This one's tough, and there's a lot of strife going on in this building throughout training camp so far. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they collapsed down the stretch last year, ended up missing out on the playoffs because the Falcons beat the Saints in week 18. Do you think the Bucs bounce back and get into the postseason?
Here's my problem, Jake. I looked at the grid and I saw the teams that you had listed. Yeah, and I'm inclined to believe that each of them have a legit chance of making the playoffs. Right. That NFC South, you know how up and down. I mean, the team that made it from that division last year was 8-9 in the Panthers. Yep. I don't know if the Panthers are going to be able to replicate what they did last year, but the reason that I'm going with the Bucs winning that division is when Baker Mayfield is doubted, we know what he turns into. And he played like an MVP candidate for half of the season last year. And if he has that chip on his shoulder the whole year, I do think the Bucs are going to win the division.
That's what makes this interesting is, do I think the Bucs are one of the better teams in the NFC? I'd probably lean no, especially if they end up trading Vita Vea. But that division is just weak. Like, do I believe in the Panthers to make it again? No. Do I believe in the Falcons given the quarterback situation they're running out there? Probably not, although the weapons are really good. And then the Saints, I think, are the wild card in all of this. Like, if Tyler Shuck plays really well and takes a step and looks like he could be a franchise quarterback for the Saints, sure, that team could challenge in that division. But I think in terms of what you know about these teams and not what you think might happen, I think the Bucs are the team that you can trust the most. So I will say yes too, but I'll say yes, and they win the division at like 9-8.
Yeah, and the Saints too. How good are the Saints going to be this year? You know, that's something. I thought Kellen Moore was able to get the absolute most out of that roster last year, and it did get better. You know, a little bit. They added Jordan Tyson for another weapon for Tyler Shuck. It could be a 3-way race between the Panthers, Saints, and Bucs. If the Falcons get good play at quarterback, I mean, that's probably the most competitive division in football. Would you agree?
Yeah, competitive, given I think all the teams are kind of close together.
Yeah, like all four have a chance to win that division.
Right. I would agree with that. And I might say on paper, the Panthers might be the worst team there. I'd have to look through the whole roster, but that they won it last year. So who are we to doubt that they could do it again? Kind of flip side of the coin here with the Bucs, who are in a weak division. There's a lot of questions. The 49ers, they do have a lot of questions around this team heading into the year with injuries, and you're starting the season in Australia. We talked with Connor earlier about the schedule differences between the Rams and 49ers, but they're playing in a really, really, really tough division. The Rams are the Super Bowl favorites. The Seahawks are the reigning Super Bowl champions. The Cardinals are in there too. But it may be easier said than done for a team as talented as the 49ers to make the playoffs, given the other teams they have to play twice a year.
So I'm going to have to play a little playoff math here. We did this with the college football playoff yesterday with Corey. So my hot take this year is I think 3 teams from the NFC North get in. So we know that there are 8 teams from each conference. So 3 teams from the NFC North, a winner from the NFC South. I'm going to go 2 teams from the West, and then you have to have a team from what am I forgetting? Yeah, from the East.
Yeah.
I'm going to say no for the 49ers, and the only reason I say no is I can't count on them to be healthy at this point in time. They're missing 19 players on their roster right now for today's training camp practice. If I can't count on you to be healthy, I can't count on you to make the playoffs. So that's the only reason I'm saying no with the 49ers.
Right. And I think that is the conversation that has to be had is you're not necessarily comparing them to the Rams or the Seahawks, because I think the Rams are going to win that division. You look at the talent that they have. The Rams are the best team in the NFL, and I think they win that division. But I think the Niners are a talented team. You compare them to the Lions, the Packers, the Bears, the Seahawks, the Eagles, and Cowboys. I do wonder if they end up on the bottom of the totem pole there, and they end up being left out. So I'm going to go with you. I'm going to say no on the 49ers this year. I just think the NFC has a lot of really good teams, and having to play the Rams and Seahawks twice just won't play in their favor. Last one here. Missed the playoffs last year, but a 3-time Super Bowl champion over the past decade. The Kansas City Chiefs, do they get back to the playoffs?
This will be my shortest answer. 15's out there, they do.
He was out there a lot of the year last year.
But when he's hurt, we see what happens to that team. I mean, they can completely crumble. Mahomes is so elite that he masquerades all of the offensive line issues. If he's healthy and out there the whole year, the Chiefs are not missing the playoffs.
I'm going to say yes right now. And I agree with you. The Mahomes part of it does creep into my mind of I don't want to be the one saying Patrick Mahomes isn't going to make the playoffs. But it's definitely possible. That team is not super talented. They still do have a tough schedule, even though they're playing a weaker schedule given where they finished last year. And that division's good. The Broncos were a play or two away from the Super Bowl. If Bo Nix was healthy, maybe they end up there. And the Chargers, if they can stay healthy, are probably definitely are a more talented team than the Chiefs top to bottom. So I'm going to lean yes, but I also am a little bit worried about that team just being Patrick Mahomes and a bunch of guys.
I mean, we went through the roster with Corey. It's not a good roster. Yep. But I really think Mahomes is so generationally great and such a rare talent that, football is an 11-on-11 game, but when Mahomes is out there, it almost turns to 1-on-11. And he's that good where, like I said, he masquerades all of their issues on offense when he's playing 100%. And even if he's not 100%, even if he's 95, 90%, that's still better than most of the quarterback play that you get in the NFL.
Yeah, and this wouldn't be the first time, right, that we've seen a Chiefs team that on paper is not as good as maybe the Ravens or the Bills or whoever they're playing in the AFC playoffs still find a way to win because they've got 15 behind center. So I'm going to agree with you. I think they're in, but I do think that is a flawed team that is being propped up by a generational quarterback.
So did we say 4 out of the 5 teams that we listed make the playoffs?
Yes, I think the only one I said no on was the 49ers.
Yeah, same.
Which, again, it's not impossible. Like, I listed off 5 teams, and we said 2 in each conference are going to get in. So I think the playoff math doesn't necessarily get in our way as much as it did with the college football version of this.
Correct, because there's not with the playoff in college football, you get 12 teams, but it's really 11 because you have to have the group of 5 in there. So with NFL, at least you get 14. Yeah,
and in the college football playoff, I think there are some teams that it's like non-negotiable. They're going to be in there, or at least you're setting them to the side because it's like, all right, that team's good enough. They're going to be in the playoffs. So there's a lot less spots just that are up for grabs than there are in the NFL. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Titans practice underway here at Vanderbilt Health Football Center. Again, updates coming later on once practice wraps up. We've got a couple more segments left with you on this Thursday. We'll get back to the Titans after this. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. I am live at Vanderbilt Health Football Center. Titans training camp continues today. Third day in pads, and 1 week from today, we will be getting ready for the first preseason game out in San Francisco. 5 days away from joint practices. Titans getting work across the way. Again, can't give you updates today while practice is going on, not open to the public. We'll give you updates once practice wraps up. But overall, Parker, we're a week into training camp. The wheels are rolling. We're getting going here, getting closer to actual football being played. What have been some of your biggest areas of encouragement for the Titans so far that you've seen when you've been out here at practice?
I've been really encouraged by the leadership that I've seen from Robert Saleh and how he handled the fight situation on Tuesday. Yeah. I immediately in my mind compared it to the several opportunities that Brian Callahan had to make a statement and to really set the tone to not just kick Jeffrey Simmons out of practice, but whoever was fighting to kick them off to a side field to allow them to still get their work in. But if you throw punches in practice, I mean, in a game you do that and you're gone. So I've really been encouraged by the leadership from Robert Saleh because in an organization, everything flows from the top down. So if you have good, strong leadership at the top, usually that flows down to your roster as well. That doesn't guarantee wins, but it's very refreshing from, the lack of leadership we've seen during the Brian Callahan era.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's been one of the big things that stood out to me is we talked all offseason about the coaching staff and the experience and the organization that you expect to see from this group with Saleh, Dable, Bradley, Fossil. And I think that's really shown up. The practices seem very intentional on what they're getting work in for the offense, for the defense. And you're right. The opportunity came up on Tuesday for Robert Saleh to put his foot down and draw the line and say, no, this isn't going to happen. You're missing out on work every time that there's pushing and shoving after the whistle. And he shut it down. He made a statement, and I think that was really important to see early on. And I really like the way that this whole schedule is really structured, especially with the way the joint practices are structured. I've said it before. When you do those 2 days in a row, and Tony Pollard said this with us when he was up here last week, when you do those 2 days in a row, the second day really just devolves into chaos a lot of the time. You get guys throwing punches, you get these big scrums, and you don't really get the work in that you need to. I like the way Robert Saleh has set up this training camp to make sure they're maximizing every minute that they're out here and not losing time because of, scrums or pushing and shoving, whether that's here at the Titans practice facility or whenever they get the joint practices coming up over the next few weeks.
I really liked what Corey Curtis was saying yesterday. To see 98 involved in a training camp fight is the least surprising thing in the world.
Yeah.
And I always think the second day of full pads is much worse than the first day because the first day it's all so new, but the second day it all sets in and they're still trying to get used to wearing full pads just because they haven't done that at all this offseason. And plus Tuesday was one of the more hot, muggier days that we've been out there. And you got a bunch of grown men flying around, testosterone's going everywhere. There are going to be some pushing and shoving. There are going to be some fights. Now, for Jeffrey Simmons, it's okay to get in a little bit of a scuffle, but when you start throwing punches and you risk the injury of breaking your hand, you got to be smarter than that.
Yeah, it's football. Like, there's going to be pushing and shoving, and guys aren't always going to get along after the play every single time. But I think it does show you a lot about your coaching staff with the way that they handle it. And I think it also it makes a statement that nobody's above the team. And like Jeffrey Simmons, it's like you said, it's no surprise to see him in the middle of those things. But you want to see your coaching staff treat the best defensive tackle in the league the same way he would treat anybody else. And he said the standard is if you throw a punch in a game, you get ejected. That's the same way it's going to work in practice. So I would say, yes, that's probably one of the biggest things that's encouraged me so far. The way Robert Saleh has started his Titans tenure here in training camp, I think leaves a lot of reason to believe that he could be the right guy here to lead this franchise for a long time.
That's an excellent point by you because everybody knows that there are a couple guys on this roster but Jeffrey Simmons specifically is on a level above everybody else. I mean, he's one of the elite players in the entire National Football League, but when it comes to fighting at practice, no one is bigger than the Titans. With this whole rebrand, them trying to establish a new culture, setting the tone from day one is most important, because if you wait and you wait and wait a couple years to set the tone, well, players have already been lax those first couple of years. So what makes you think that they're going to adjust to you trying to reset the culture? With all this new, they're trying to start over, and I got to give Saleh his props for, we're not doing this. And he laid his foot down, and he handled it very diplomatically in the presser afterwards. And I was just, I gained a lot of respect for Robert Saleh that day.
Yeah, they've talked a ton about culture, and I think that's one of those moments that helps you set the culture for this team. So I think that's been really good to see so far from Robert Saleh. It's early. Does that necessarily help you win games on Sundays? Maybe not immediately, but I think it does get this franchise back to where they need to be, trying to build that winning culture, and we'll see if that carries over to the regular season. I will say, I said it earlier with Connor, the O-line play hasn't been horrible. Like, again, I think you expect the defensive line to win a lot of those battles, but it's been encouraging to me that it hasn't been an outright disaster so far, which I think is what we kind of expected. With the talent you have in that interior of the defensive line and the questions that you have in the interior of the offensive line, it's held up better than I expected to so far.
It has. We've been dogging it really all offseason, but it hasn't looked horrible. We've still talked about it, but at least it hasn't looked horrible, and Cam Ward's not getting completely destroyed out there. He's still facing a lot of pressure, which is something that he has to get used to, and the line has to protect better, but it hasn't been as egregious as we thought that it might be. Still not great, right. Not good by any means, but it's not been egregious.
Yeah, again, it hasn't been, a wet paper towel that they've been rolling through play in and play out, which is encouraging. We're going to have to see how that holds up when you get to joint practices and the preseason. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We've got one more segment left with you on this Thursday. We'll wrap up the show after this. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, wrapping up the show on this Thursday. Again, I am live at Titans training camp, Vanderbilt Health Football Center. Third practice in pads this week. We'll give you some updates after practice ends. It might have to come from Chase and Big Joe. They're coming up right after us. Again, if you missed TD today, usually we have TD Thursdays. Don't worry. He's in tomorrow. We're doing a Freaky Friday with Teron Davenport tomorrow. He'll be in studio for all 3 hours, so excited for that. Parker and I have been hanging out, talking NFL, talking Titans. And again, Parker, it is a glorious day because football is back in whatever form it may come in, even in the form of Kenny Pickett versus Carson Beck. We are excited for it. Tonight, the Hall of Fame game kicks off the NFL preseason. We could not be happier.
And my juices are flowing because we get to watch a scrimmage tomorrow in the stadium. Like that's going to be about as close to a game feel as we can get in early August. So I'm pumped. We got people taking offensive coordinator jobs at MAC schools. It's just been a crazy day.
Right. I mean, what a week. And you look at these weekends coming up, you at least can start to piece it together to get to real football. This week, you've got the Hall of Fame game tonight, Titans practice in the stadium tomorrow. Then next week, first Titans preseason game. You got a couple of weeks of that. Then the week after, Labor Day weekend. Week 0 is the final week of the preseason. I should say that. Then Labor Day weekend, you get your full slate of college football, and then it's full swing for the next 4 months. Like this is, again, still a while away. We're a month away from real football being played. College football week 1. But we are getting closer. And once it starts, we got a long time. And take advantage of all the football that you can get.
That's why I missed football after I started missing football really after the national championship was over in college basketball. But at the same time, you don't want to wish away summer because you know that once summer's over, I mean, you're not coming up for a breath until the Super Bowl's over.
Right. No, that's true. We've had this conversation plenty of times. It's like it's easy to be during the summer. I'm like, man, I just can't wait for football season. Like, let's get going. But as fun as football season is, and for me, when you get into basketball season too, it gets a little bit exhausting too. So, not wishing away the summer, but also really looking forward to football being back. It's been really fun to be out here watching practice, but there is a big difference between practice and seeing the actual jerseys on. And tonight, again, probably not going to be all that entertaining of a game, but you're going to see real football being played. And that is all we've been asking for a long time.
It has. And we're going to be dialed in every second tonight with 7:00 on NBC. It's going to be great, man. It's going to be exciting.
Cannot wait. I found the headline that I was looking for about Dexter Lawrence. Dexter Lawrence, quote unquote, terrorizing practice at Bengals training camp. So maybe some worries about the Bengals defense can be quelled by the addition of sexy Dexy in the middle.
And maybe some worries about their offensive line.
Yeah, maybe that's true, which if you talk about the issues that you've seen with the Bengals over the past few years, defense probably issue number 1. Number 2 would be that offensive line. So maybe Dexter Lawrence, again, quote unquote, terrorizing the Bengals offensive line. Good in some ways, bad in others.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up who they have on the depth chart at offensive line. They still have Orlando Brown there at left tackle, which he really hasn't been what I thought he would be. But outside of that, it's Dylan Fairchild, who they drafted recently, Ted Karras at center, Dalton Reisner at right guard, and Amarius Mims at right tackle.
Yeah, there's some young talent there, but yeah, you are hoping to see a little bit more, especially with how injured Joe Burrow's been over the past couple of years. Excited to see what the Bengals could look like. We both said they're playoff team this year. Titans play them. Is that the game right before the bye for the Titans?
Let me double check.
I know they play the Bengals and Browns back to back. I can't remember what order it is. Yes, Bengals November 1st, the last game before the bye
week.
Yep. So we will see them in November. Couple of odds and ends before we wrap up here. Another big running back contract signed today. Jonathan Taylor gets 2 years, $44 million from the Colts. So I would make the guess that Jahmyr Gibbs should be the ink should be drying on that contract sooner rather than later. Now that Robinson and Taylor have gotten paid, Gibbs clearly the next guy in line.
Yeah, if you're Jahmyr Gibbs, you seeing that Bijan Robinson contract should make you a very happy man. It's crazy that with even the amount of guaranteed money that Bijan's getting, he's still second behind Jeremiah Love.
Jeremiah Love.
Yeah. But if you're Jahmyr Gibbs, my guess is that the Lions are going to one up, and he's going to be the highest paid running back in the NFL. And so he should be a happy man.
Yes, Jahmyr Gibbs, it was a game of chicken with him and Bijan Robinson of who's going to sign their contract first, because the agent of the one who's waiting last is just going to say, give me a little bit more than that guy to make me the highest paid running back in NFL history. And so with Robinson signing it first, you're going to see the contract for Gibbs probably be slightly higher than Bijan Robinson, although I would guess it wouldn't be too much higher than what? Close to $25 million that Robinson got earlier this week.
Oh yeah, no doubt. But I was thinking about with all the contract, because we've seen Darnell Wright, he's now the highest paid offensive tackle in NFL history as a right tackle, nonetheless. And Zay Flowers getting that extension with Baltimore. I think it's Justin Jefferson is tied with Zay Flowers for fourth most annual average per year. If you're Justin Jefferson, you're about to reset the wide receiver market. And plus, Puka Nacua is going to be eligible for an extension soon.
Yes, and with Puka, you do have the added intrigue of some of the off-the-field things that have gone on this offseason. And it seems like he's doing well now that he's back in camp. He's talked about it, that he's in a better spot. But that might be some of the reason there's been a delay with getting him that long-term extension that should put him right at or at least around the top of the wide receiver market.
No doubt. But I'm happy, for Zay Flowers. It's certainly deserved, and I like the commitment that Baltimore has shown to the wide receiver position. That's been a neglected position there for a while, especially while Harbaugh was there. The fact that they got this deal done, they locked down Lamar Jackson's top target, and they brought in some guys through the draft too. So they're really trying to give Lamar as many weapons as possible so that eluded success in the postseason might eventually end up happening for him.
100%. We got a couple minutes left on the show. Practice is not wrapped up yet, so can't give you updates yet. Again, the timing is funny because it's usually practice ends within 10 minutes of us going off the air, so can't give you updates yet, but those should be coming out in the next 30 minutes or so from everybody out here at Titans training camp. Day 3 in pads, and again, tomorrow, Titans are out at the stadium for practice, and then you're gearing up, I believe. Am I correct? They have one more practice here before heading out to Santa Clara next week, Parker, after the stadium?
Yeah, so after the stadium, they have a practice on Sunday. I'll be there for that, and then they leave on Monday. Monday is their travel day.
Perfect. So we will have you covered for all the Titans training camp updates today. Once practice wraps up, make sure you check in with TD and Connor from what they saw today. We know our guests now coming up on Chasing Big Joe, and I'm excited about this, Parker. Let me see if you can guess it. It's kind of off the wall, but it's a lot of fun.
So it's off the wall. Are you allowed to reveal it now?
Yeah,
okay.
We can tell you who's going to come.
Okay, off the wall. Narrow it down for me. What side of the ball is it on?
Special teams.
Morgan Cox.
No. Tommy Townsend.
Oh, that dude's got a boot.
2-time Super Bowl champion punter will join us. And maybe a little bit of a sore subject, but former Tennessee Volunteer finished his career at Florida. So we will talk to Tommy Townsend coming up at some point during the Chasing Big Joe show. Excited for that. Make sure you stay tuned right here tomorrow. Again, couldn't have TD today. He's got work to do down here at practice, but with the scrimmage tomorrow being in the evening, he's going to join us tomorrow for the full show live in studio, 9 a.m. It is a Freaky Friday with Teron Davenport. So excited for that. Keep it right here. Chasing Big Joe are coming up next. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.